future ignites. Sellers in control, watch their sales grow. Empowered to win with eRank we flow.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Everyone's going to wonder
Welcome
who are these
to the
people.
Q&A.
Yeah. We are all roasting here in North America right now, I believe.
Oh, man.
We sure are.
Yeah.
We got Brian. We got this way. We got Anthony. And then further, we got Sterla. Everyone's here.
Wait, who's Anthony? Who is that? I've never heard of this man.
Who are you, Anthony?
Who are you?
I don't know.
Anthony is the founder and creator of eRank, the
What's
wonderful SEO tool.
Yeah. I'm also the founder and sole member of the Ohio Hollow Earth Society, but we're a small but exclusive group.
That's what we actually met about in Columbus.
I hope everyone's ready to hear about how hollow the world is.
Hollow is better than flat, though, right?
Fair.
I don't know.
So welcome. Today we are talking about eRank Etsy and all of your questions. We're doing a Q&A here, and we're going to be talking about some eRank features and Etsy on the whole, with all the changes that have been happening in the last few weeks that are fun.
Interesting.
Interesting is a much better word, an accurate word.
The video that I've got, because it's picking up so much traction, it's gotten almost 150,000 views just over the last 2 days. But I'm noticing now that it's mostly being commented on by shoppers. So it's really interesting listening to their perspectives. And I dare say that if I were to run a poll, it would be about 50-50 of people who say, this really sucks. This Etsy's where I buy my crystals, or Etsy's where I get my 3D printed stuff. And then the other side is, well, this is how it should be. I don't go to Etsy to buy, crystals that were bought somewhere else and resold, or I don't go to Etsy to see the same 3D printed stuff over and over again. So it's just really interesting seeing the perspectives. And we also watched that video. Anthony, did you know that Linus from Linus Tech Tips did a video on these Etsy updates? It was more.
They talked about it on the latest WAN show. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did not.
It was really interesting seeing, his perspective. But he's speaking as someone who he doesn't. It's not like he understands, what Etsy's supposed to be. I actually like the other guy a lot more. The other guy who he was talking to. But you can just kind of see what overall perceptions of Etsy by those who aren't intimately familiar with it like we are, how they're feeling about these updates. So, we're not here to offer you guys any solutions, unfortunately. We just we know just as much as you guys do. There's still a lot of uncertainty. Anna said Starla, the basement is gleaming tidy. No, that would be Mr. Moore who did that. I didn't do that.
Yeah, Mr. Moore's got a great glow about him.
All right. Well, since we've only got 26 here now, Anthony, did you want to start off with your presentation aspects and then wait for questions to come in organically throughout? Or
yeah, I'll do that. I mean, I don't have anything fancy prepared this week, unfortunately. Sorry, guys. If I sound a little bit nasal, it's because I've been wiped out this morning with allergies again.
But you got a haircut.
I got a haircut.
You look snazzy.
Handsome as hell.
Well, it happened eventually, right? Took a lot of work.
You have to in this heat.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of folks notice that we took down the little sales rank badge this week. And I thought even before that, it's probably long overdue that we sort of regrounded everyone in what it is, what the sales rank is, how it's calculated, things like that, and why we did it. So I'll start by saying this. So typically when you log into your dashboard, you will see, some stats about your shop, the number of listings, maybe there's a bit of a health check in there telling you where you're missing tags and stuff like that. And then there's some interesting stats as well, which tells you how your shop ranks in terms of the number of sales compared to all the other shops on Etsy. And we didn't put it in there just to aggravate people. It was really put in there to give people a little bit of motivation sometimes. And I'm sure everyone that's tuned in has had those days where you've just gone, I can't do this anymore. I need to take a break or whatever. And I think what the numbers have shown me over the years is that a lot of folks who sell on Etsy give up. They've probably heard, rent a shop, you will make $40,000 in the first 3 months, and you've all heard it before, right? And they get one sale, and it's to their mother or something like that, and they just give up. So we created this to help people just put things in perspective and understand that what you've done. I mean, if you've got 10 sales, you've actually done pretty damn well. So that's why we created this, to give you a little bit of motivation, give you some perspective. Not what they do. Anyway, we were making some improvements to it during the week. We wanted to add some category level support and a few other things to make it a bit faster, and we messed something up. So we had to take off the badge. It will be back by Monday, I promise, guys. So that's the good news. But I wanted to share.
Programming is the type of thing where if you put a space in the wrong spot, things just stop working. It's tough.
Oh yeah. I won't bore you with the details on what they messed up. It wasn't tragic, but it was frustrating to see it. But anyway, how about we do a little bit of a trivia game? So, how many shops are on Etsy nowadays? Any guesses?
Oh, I'm not allowed to answer, am I?
Well, Brian, you can't answer because I just told you. Starla, you can take a guess. Anyone else that's tuned in is also welcome.
Well, let's let them answer, and then I'll try to answer afterwards, since I've got an advantage of frequently having to look this information up.
Yet, you will be surprised yourself, Starla.
Has there been an update? Well, here, might be fun. Let's see. Am I able to add? No, I'm not. I was going to say I could add a poll to the chat. Oh, I can.
We got Anna saying 5 million.
I think by the time you get it up there, we'll have. We've actually got a couple of really good guesses in here, I must say.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we'll do how about we'll do over 5 million, under, since that seems to be the most popular, and then we'll do maybe.
I'm not sure your first name, Jay Dunn, but there is no prize for this. Sorry.
No prize.
Maybe bragging rights. That's about it. Okay, so the closest to official number that I've seen is about 5.5 million. Etsy have some interesting ways of defining it. So I think it's anyone that's had a shop open over the past 12 months, if memory serves me right. That's in their quarterly reports. Yeah. But how do you define active or shops that are in the space? Is it someone that opened a shop 19 and a half years ago and shut it down 3 months later? Should they be counted? Yes or no? So I think the right answer is about 5.5 million. There is a little backdoor page. You can go to Etsy. You can just enter in a space and you'll get a count back there. It's like 5.56 or something. But if you go in there and sort it alphabetically, you'll see a bunch of shops in there with 0 items listed, and they haven't sold anything in, or haven't had a review in 2 or 3 years or something like that. So that number's a little bit inflated. All right. I won't ask you to answer this question, but since we started eRank, going on 10 years ago, we have discovered about 10.5 million shops. And that's a substantially bigger number. And there are ones in there, like the one that stands out to me is Bohemian Findings. They got shut down a few years ago, but they were the first shop to get to 1 million sales. So should they be included in the sales rank calculations? I kind of think it's a significant milestone, probably should be. Other people may think differently. Next question for you. How many shops, and we'll talk about the bigger 10.5 million that we know about, how many of those do you think have never sold an item?
Most of them.
And chat, answer that. I will mention that I was way off.
Brian's
So if
only
your
giving-
answer is 9 million, you're way off.
Sorry, Kat, 90% is way off.
Oh yeah, see, Kat said the
Yeah.
exact same thing as me.
I
That was my
like the
assumption
answer
too.
that's just a lot. I think that that's the winning answer, just a lot.
A lot. Yeah, it's pretty accurate. And to be honest, I don't know the full answer, but from those 10.5 million, it's about 4.5 million. That's a lot, right? So why we created the sales rank was to try and help folks that are stuck in that 4.5 million bucket. How do you go from 0 to 1? And then how do you go from 1 to 2 and so forth? So anyway, there's a little bit of trivia for you. A lot of folks out there have never sold. I look at that as a great challenge for eRank and HAA and others that are out there. It's like, how can we help these people? They clearly needed to make money somehow. And they discovered Etsy, and for whatever reason, it let them down badly. So I look at it and I go, we got a lot of people to help. How many do you think are stuck on just having sold one item?
Oh, I think it's a lot, because I think that everybody can ask like mom to go buy from their shop, just to see how it works.
Yeah.
And remember, these numbers are also why you see huge jumps when you go from 0 to 1 sales. Why you see a huge jump when you go from 10 to 11 sales, you might see a huge jump in your ranking because of these numbers. But how many people do you think have sold one single item?
Yeah.
We got 20%, 50%. Jess once again with her very specific number, 78.43. Kat was 60%.
Yeah. It's
5%.
It's about 1%. Sorry, 10%. Sorry, 10%. So about 900,000 shops that I'm aware of that have sold one item. So again, we've still got a lot of people out there to help. If you get to the point of the badges where we say you're in the top 1% or you're in the top 5% or in the top 10%, to qualify for the top 1%, that changes all the time. So we have people that maybe have 1 or 2 sales each day, and they go in and they're looking at the top 1% and they go, why am I going down? Sadly, that's because other shops are starting to go past you. Other times you can be at the other end of the spectrum. You might have 1 sale and then you jump to 2 sales, and suddenly you leapfrog like 30 or 40% of the folks, because that's all those ones that had 0 or 1 sale. So yeah, the magic number to get into 1% is a bit over 12,000 sales. So if you've got about 12,000 or more sales, you're in the top 1%. That's absolutely awesome. No one can take that from you. You should be proud of that every day of the week.
Which just also shows how good Etsy has been for a lot of sellers for the past 5 years. Because 5 years ago, back in 2020, I remember looking at those numbers, and it was about 6,000 sales was all you needed to get to the top 5%.
Yep. So the target keeps moving. So, as much as we did this to motivate you, please try not to be demotivated when you do see that happen. It's just the dynamic nature of the beast. To get to the top 5%, you need a lot less. It's like 2,200 sales, give or take, something like that. So, the bar is a lot lower. And if I was to graph this out, it's like you remember the long tail graphs? Have you ever seen those where it's like really high on one end and then just drops? No, really, really high on one end. Can someone draw one?
Like a dinosaur.
Yeah,
Like a brontosaurus.
tail.
It goes straight, and then just all of a sudden it's straight up.
Yep. So it drops off. So as you go from like 2 to 5 to 10, you see that percentage goes up, and you start to leave a lot of people in the dust. So again, jumps dramatically. Once you get to the 1%, I'm sure there's a couple of you who are in the 1% or nudging there. it's really hard to work your way up that list as fast as you were when you were under there. So that's really it. A couple of other key points. We don't calculate the rank based on how much money you've made. So it's just the number of items that you've sold. So if you were to go to Etsy.com/shop/Caitlin Minimalist, and you would look at the sales that she's had, which is what, is it 3 million now?
Is that like 3 million something?
That's the number that it's based off. So yeah, that's it. We get a lot of people asking, that's nice, but can you make it based on revenue? Reality is we can't. Etsy don't share that data. It's considered private. What money you make is between you, Etsy, and the IRS or ATO or whatever the governing body is in your country. So we don't share that. Even for the ones that we do have that information for, we're still not going to share it because that's a breach of your privacy or your rights to privacy, and would be a breach of Etsy's terms.
Well, you wouldn't want the whole world to know how much money is entering your household. That's some weird information because you could become a target. Someone would be like, oh, well, we know that this person has a lot of money. They might have cool stuff in their house. They look at your return address on your Etsy shipping label. They know where you live. Then bam, that could potentially make you a target. That's why Etsy protects that information.
Exactly. And that's why we don't show other shops. We don't have their information, but that's why we don't show other shops, because it might help you as a seller, even though it will not help you to know what other people are making, but it might help you as a seller, but then other people can see your information. So we wouldn't give some people some information, other people not. That's just not fair. So it's just all private.
Now, Michael and Lorenzo, they both had great questions.
Mm-hmm.
Michael said, how do I know what badges are available to work towards? And I've been thinking about this for a while, Anthony. It might be cool because I know that we have colored tiers for the different badges. It would be really cool to show them, like level 1, level 2, level 3, or give like each of them a name. That way they know what the significance of those colors are and how close they are to potentially reaching the next, their next color.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific idea. The badges are relatively new. I always knew there was a great motivation, and I would often see in Facebook and other places where people would post and say, hey, I'm in the top 10%, and they're really proud of it. And so we decided to create the downloadable badges. We have several new badges that we're working on. I think it's probably a little too soon to say what they are, but since we're working on it, it's also a great time to let us know. So if you've got requests, send a little bit of feedback through the feedback button on eRank, or shoot us an email, support@erank.com. Let us know. We always love to hear your ideas. But more are coming.
Lorenzo had asked, what is the purpose for, he said Etsy, he meant eRank, to encourage badges from or for sellers, aside from the obvious bragging rights?
It's motivation. Like I said earlier, the number of folks that create a store, they have these great dreams and expectations. They may have needs. They may be in extreme financial distress, looking after a loved one, or lost their job or whatever. And the purpose is to keep people motivated, try and give them good guidance, and do the best to stick with it. I think anyone that's turned to, or probably everyone's had those moments where you've just gone, I can't do this anymore. It's to try and encourage them.
And it's not just the smaller sellers. It's not just the people that are trying to get to 5 sales or 100 sales. The people that are at 10,000 or 100,000 sales, they go through that too. That's not just a I'm starting out thing. That's everyone goes through that of, how do I progress? Or what do why am I doing this?
And then sometimes Etsy change the rules and you've got to pivot, and you're like, what do I do now?
Anna suggests doing a badge for how you're doing in your own country. What about one for one's own country if you get number 1 in your country? I live on a tiny island, so it's possible one day. You are lucky.
I think it's a great idea. We know Etsy are trying to expand globally and excite people in their different parts of the world. And here you are with a massive market like the US. I think it just makes total sense. We do have a rank for your country, so the next logical step is to apply that and create badges. So if you're the top 1% in the UK or Australia or India, wherever it is, I think we should support it. I think it's a terrific idea. We've got the data to do it.
And I'm in Canada, and to me, that's the number that I look at. I look at how I rank in my country, because in the world, that's a lot of people. But like, how am I doing based on other sellers that are in the same predicaments with shipping, with taxes, with whatever as I am? That's kind of more motivating for me personally. So I support that.
We've had many requests just to show the rank for the category, or to exclude digital downloads or print on demand, or only show print on demand or vintage. We've had those sort of requests. Those are really hard because many shops are spread, their listings are spread across multiple categories. Sometimes they sell vintage, sometimes they do not. Sometimes they pivot, and maybe for the first 5 years they were selling jewelry. Now they're selling t-shirts. So unfortunately, at a category level, it's not going to fly too well. We can give you a rough guidance, but I'm sure you can go in there and go, I know that shop, they changed. So category can't quite do too well, unfortunately.
Definitely. And it just makes it that much harder, like you were saying, with the pivot. If someone was selling masks during the pandemic, but now they're selling stickers, now they're in a completely different category. And if stickers aren't doing well for them because they only use SVG design, so now they have to switch to POD, now they're in a completely different category. So which one do we put them in? Just what they are most recently, even though most of their sales were from a different category. It makes it very difficult to actually put someone in a specific rank for a category because of that.
Right. Products are categorized, but shops aren't necessarily categorized. We create our own categories for ourselves if we have a defined niche, but there are plenty of sellers who sell a whole lot of everything.
Yep.
And we will make we'll try our best to categorize a shop. We'll look at the most recently updated listings and go, right, if 50 or 60% of these in jewelry, we'll put them in the jewelry category. It's simplistic, but for the most part, it does work. I think I might change gears a little bit, because something cool that we're working on right now, which I think will probably release in about 2 weeks, maybe 3, is a tool or a report that allows you to drill into different categories. So if you've used the monthly trends, you'll see that there are categories in there for Etsy, and you can see what the most popular keywords are for those categories. But what we're doing is adding an extra layer of information. So you can go into jewelry, and then you can go into bracelets and see what the popular keywords are. But we're going to go one step further and actually look at what keywords are getting clicks. So, it's not just gift and stuff like that. It's what keywords are driving clicks to listings themselves. So that is, I think, going to be really, really interesting information. Some of the team have already seen it, and we got some good feedback. Delayed the launch a little bit, but it's for the good. It'll also give you some interesting competitor intelligence as well. So if you were to look at a category and there were, 1 million clicks in there, for example, it's kind of cool to know what shops are getting those clicks.
Yeah.
Because then you can start to go, what are they doing right here? You can go in there and you get some great ideas and work with that information. The other bit we're adding, and this may be for a smaller number of you folks out there, but we're going to add some demographic information in there as well. So if you're curious to know what the typical shopper looks like in the one of the shoes categories, you can see the male and female splits in there and the age brackets that folks fit into as well. So you can start to maybe look at tweaking your products to match those audiences. Or if you have a specific audience in mind, hopefully you can hunt them down through this tool now and start
Or
to go,
keywords.
I need to be in here.
If you notice that mostly women are buying men's shoes, then it might be interesting to, experiment with keywords, gifts for husband, gifts for grandpa, because if it's primarily women who are looking for those types of products for men, then you know that it's probably a gift. So then it might help you to, guide how you're positioning your products.
Yep.
It's true. I could tell you I have not bought my own socks in 8 years. just throwing that out there.
The other little thing, I was really hoping I could show this today, but I'll tease you instead. We are adding a different sort of badge to the keyword tool. And this one is to let you know if the keyword you entered into the keyword tool has been converting highly over the past 4 weeks, over the past month.
Ooh.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that works, because there are plenty of words out there which have got high search volume, low competition, high search volume.
This is profitability.
Yeah. So this is actually looking at those words that people search for, and then it goes through and says, oh, okay, what did people do next? Did they add it to cart? Did they go and check out? Did they get to the thank you page and tell us, yep, they bought it? So we're going to start sharing that information with you. So the first thing we'll be doing is putting a little badge in there. I think it's got a little $ in there that says highly converting. So if you see those things, this word is good. You still have to optimize for it. You can't just slap it in there and hope for the best. You've still got to work with it. But at least there is strong evidence that people are buying after searching for that word. So that, I don't like to update things on Friday, because that means some people on the team don't have a good weekend if something goes wrong. I would say that's also a Monday release. I think someone in the team might not be happy with me saying that, but I believe it is imminent. So that'll
be absolutely amazing, because it'll allow people to see the difference between a broad match versus a narrow match. If you just search for jewelry, there might be a lot of listings and there might be a lot of people searching for it, but are people clicking? We don't. And when people click, what are they doing? Are they actually making the purchase, or are they hitting back to tighten that search? They're looking for a specific piece of jewelry, a specific color. And so you'll start to see the long tail keywords, how well those actually do compared to the just broad match keywords.
Yeah, I've never seen a tool out there that gives any validity to purchase intent. Even if you see that something's highly searched and it has, a great click-through rate, that's as far as your journey goes. But that purchase intent is really what matters most, because you could use a great keyword like gifts for mom. I'm sure it's highly searched, but most of those searches, they just serve as springboards. Someone searches for gifts for mom and they see tons of different types of products, but then they notice, what I really want is more of these purses. So they might refine their search to crochet daisy purse. And then it's the long tail keyword that has the purchase intent. The original keyword that they searched was just so they could get their initial ideas. So though there's a lot of searches, it doesn't mean that that's going to be a good keyword for you to necessarily use to convert those buyers.
One thing I found that was interesting when I was looking at some of the samples, some of those broad terms do actually convert, believe it or not.
Ooh.
And that's credit, I think, to Etsy's algorithm. So if they kind of know what you're looking for, and you just search for something fairly broad, and then you go ahead and buy, it tells me their algorithm's doing really good at matching you for some of those things. So it's not all bad news up at the head end of the long tail keyword graph. So
the personalization probably heavily, like you said, I've noticed just over the last few weeks, my personalized search has done significantly better than it was doing around the holiday season, for example, where I was getting completely irrelevant searches in my queries. And now it really does feel like things are tightening up.
It does.
It's starting to act more like ads on Facebook is what I find, where it knows exactly what I'm looking for, when I'm looking for it, as if it's in my own head. It's
Yeah.
Very, isn't it?
it's making
what
me purchase a lot more from Etsy. So thanks, Etsy. Thanks. You're
I'm
gonna make me go
also-
broke. Thanks.
I'm noticing in search, I've been searching for example, Mark and I are looking for matching bucket hats for a music festival, and I need a frog bucket hat. So that's a very specific type of product.
Okay.
And I've been doing, repeated searches on Etsy for, frog bucket hat, froggy bucket hat. But I'm noticing a lot of the products that I'm most interested in that are popping up first in the search results, a lot of them aren't necessarily optimized the way that I would optimize a listing. Some of the ones that I currently have in my cart just have the keyword frog bucket hat. And that's it. That's their title, just frog bucket hat. And I can tell that it's a lot of creators who haven't necessarily done too much analysis on their SEO, but it's kind of leading me to believe that Etsy's machine learning and possibly this image recognition that they've been talking about, I think that it might be getting better as well, where if the sellers are at least putting in the bare minimum, but that personalization kind of takes over from there, I think that it's helping to, like Josh has been saying, over the last, 3 quarterly reports, they're trying to elevate the best of Etsy, which I think is good. I mean, obviously it sucks when you put a ton of time into your SEO. You should still have great SEO, but you also occasionally see listings where the product is really bad, but somebody went and they optimized the hell out of it, and put in a gazillion keywords, and this terrible listing is rising to the top. So I think that now we've got 2 things on our side. We have the SEO on our side, but we also have Etsy, who is, recognizing, even if something doesn't have the perfect, keywords, or maybe they just don't have, a ton of keywords, Etsy's beginning to recognize what it is that people really like.
And you could also see how good Etsy's AI is at detecting what is in an image,
Yes.
or what a listing is, just by looking at the alt text that they're creating for people's listings.
Yes.
So for your own listings, if you go into the alt text, if you haven't filled it in, they're now filling that in with AI generated text based on your image. And that is potentially being used for search results, not necessarily the alt text itself, but Etsy's understanding of what that listing is.
Yeah. And Kat had said maybe that's part of Etsy changing the title that customer sees, but the original title stays the same, which I have seen a couple posts. That's something that Etsy, because right now is the season when Etsy does all of their testing and experimenting, and some users see something and other users see something else. We're seeing big incongruencies between Opera and Chrome and Edge with how Etsy, listing pages look and what information is being displayed, what shop pages look like. Looks completely different on Edge than it does on Opera right now. But I thought the same thing, Kat, which is why I clicked on a lot of listings, and I noticed that a couple of them just weren't optimized well. I think that it was on the shopper or on the seller side that they just weren't putting in a lot of keywords. But I am keeping an eye on that, because I think that that's I think it's a good move on Etsy's part if they're creating a more reader-friendly title, but they're still maintaining the keywords for, the algorithm. At the same time, I always have that fear that Etsy's going to show you a title based on the keywords you have in your listing, but completely miss the mark on what the product is. For example, maybe the title will say that it is a crocheted bear, when in reality it's a crocheted bear pattern, and Etsy just missed that it was a pattern. I'm sure that for that specific instance, they would use the categories to help them, but I don't know. When it comes to AI, it just makes me nervous. Have you heard about this one, Anthony, that they're experimenting with reader-friendly titles?
I have, but I haven't read into it. So
Yeah.
Aware of it, knowledge about it, not much.
Yeah, it's a very interesting choice. I've never seen any other marketplaces do that.
And I haven't yet seen I haven't seen it in action. Anything that I'm searching for, I haven't seen a change in the title. My own listings, because I'm always in my own listings, I don't see a change there. So I don't know how they're choosing which listings to do that to, if they're choosing ones that just don't seem optimized and they're trying it out. Who knows?
Yeah.
I hope they're testing
Finding
very
listings that
carefully.
don't sell instead of testing it on listings that are very hot, possibly. Who knows?
Yeah. My only concern when they do that is if, you know, you see a title that sets a certain expectation and promise, and you go to the landing page and you see something slightly different, you go, oh, that's not quite what I thought I was buying. That could be problematic. I'm sure they're thinking about that though.
Yeah.
We're halfway point. I think folks, get your questions in, please.
Absolutely.
Get your questions in. We do have a question from Facebook that I can throw in now.
Oh,
Okay.
Sarah Benning says she would like to know if Etsy turning seller shops on and off is actually a thing. I keep reading about it. I'm also experiencing the extreme roller coaster of views, visits, and sales, so it all feels very inconsistent. Are you able to shed any light on that?
I have no official word from Etsy. I can give you my take on it though. So first of all, I think that what happens on Etsy may feel like that, but I think it's more just their algorithms behaving as they plan them to. And unfortunately, in certain cases, if you're in a niche that is not super popular and you have, I don't know, for argument's sake, 10 people a day looking at buying something, you get hit by one of those and they're buying from you, the pool of buyers is really small. So we'll feel like off, on like that. So if it's very niche, you will feel that. On the flip side, if you were tracking some of the more successful shops on Etsy, you'll see that it's not off, on. It's just generally on. The levels fluctuate with seasonality, holidays, really nice weather outside, things like that. So there are a whole bunch of factors that go into play here. It would be really unwise for Etsy to generally switch shops on and off, especially if those shops are doing a good job of selling and making buyers happy. I suspect that most people are feeling that off-on effect because of some of those factors I said: niche, seasonality, those sort of things. I know Etsy are on record as saying they do give new shops a bit of a boost every now and then, and new listings a little bit of a boost. So possibly that comes in and impacts it ever so slightly. That's my take on it. Starla?
And on
Right.
top of that, when a shop makes a sale, now that gives a boost in rank for that shop. So it's very so if one shop is getting a boost, then that means that another shop is not getting the boost. So it's not that a shop is being turned on and off. It's just that all those boosts up and down, new listings, new shops, new sales, that kind of thing, it can make it seem like a shop is being turned off, but really it's just that another shop is taking just a small leap for a day, and then they're back down. So now it feels like normal again. So it's not necessarily an on off. It's a go ahead.
I'll change my answer slightly. There are some triggers in marketplaces where shops may get turned off or they will get promoted less. And those occur when there are signs of potential fraud or where the marketplace is trying to protect the buyers. So for example, if you have a shop that suddenly has a massive burst of sales and you've got, and this shop may have, for argument's sake, 100 sales in a day, and 5 days later, none of them have been shipped yet. In those situations, Etsy might go, I'm going to wait till I see these being shipped and delivered, and there's some feedback coming in before I start to lift the shop up again. So there are protection mechanisms that Etsy and other marketplaces have in place for those situations. So if that's happened to you, get your items shipped. Hopefully you get good feedback in there and it starts to free up your shop again. But that was one scenario I just remembered.
And on top of that scenario, Etsy does, once you get to a certain point, if there's a lot of orders in your queue that you haven't shipped, or you have just a major spike in orders, then Etsy will put your shop on vacation mode, and they will let you know that they're doing that. So it's very possible, like Anthony said, that it could be an on and off type thing, just temporarily. If there's just like little spikes here and there, but if there's that big spike, Etsy actually says, okay, we are really concerned right now. We're going to throw you on vacation mode. So they do give you a warning at that huge level, but it's very possible that at the lower levels, they do kind of limit how much they show you.
I think that the algorithm's very reactive based on that customer engagement. And what I've, been telling people, because I've been getting this question a lot lately. I think that we're seeing patterns of two specific things. One is seasonality. So this is the summer slump. And actually, I think that things are doing a little better this summer than they have in past summers. Just, based on some of the feedback that I'm seeing from industries that I normally wouldn't see doing well. I've had a couple students who said like this is their best season. And I don't typically hear that this time of year. So I think that specific shops are doing really well. And maybe it's, Etsy just getting better at what they're doing and reducing a lot of the junk shops, since Etsy has banned, how many shops did they get rid of? 3 million, over 3 million over the last 2 quarters.
Oh yeah,
million?
that's how many shops it dropped by. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that, we're kind of seeing some of the positive result of that, of maybe people actually being able to find what they're looking for. Not necessarily that they were buying from these junky shops, but maybe, maybe they're actually being matched with products that they're interested in. But I do think that, seasonality is still at play. People tend to not spend a lot right now. But I also think that the algorithm is very reactive to, how people are interacting with your listings. And if they notice that a lot of people are engaging with a particular listing in your shop, it's why, one listing that doesn't seem to sell very much, it'll sell. But then that listing will immediately sell again the same day. And you're like, this thing never sells. And now it sold 3 times.
Or sometimes within just like a few minutes, all of a sudden that listing that never sells will sell again.
And that happens a lot with some of the stickers in my shop where, it's a very specific book reference, like a specific quote. You would have to have read this book and understand it, but it'll get shown to the right person and it'll sell. And then it'll sell a couple more times out of nowhere. And then sales will just completely stop again. Yeah. And I think that, like Anthony said, I think that a lot of it is those boosted periods where, because you have, gotten a little boost of your listing quality score because Etsy's acknowledged, ooh, someone liked this. We've just learned a little bit more about the target audience for this product. And we know that someone liked it enough to buy it. Why don't we test this product with similar audiences to see if similar audiences will make this purchase? But the odds of Etsy striking gold multiple times over and over again, and showing this, we'll say this sticker with this particular book quote, and it continuously getting hits forever and ever, isn't likely. And then once that pattern of engagement kind of dies down, I assume that Etsy lets that product, float back down to whatever its more organic ranking position would be. I don't know. That's kind of, I think that Etsy elevates the products that are getting engagement, but it's just as easy for those products to fall back down.
And I imagine they create a complete profile of every buyer, every seller, so they know that if person A made the purchase, person B is very, very much like that person in many ways. Their buying habits are the same, their search habits are the same. So let's just kind of show it to this person, either in an ad or in a related searches or somewhere else on the Etsy page, maybe even on the front page of Etsy, where you see listings you might be interested in, and it kind of it creates that path to the listing that wasn't there and that will disappear once they're like, okay, we tested it, we tried.
Yeah, and multiple people have said that they notice the exact same thing. They won't have any sales for a couple days, then all of a sudden they'll have a couple sales, and then it'll go back down, and they won't have any sales for a couple days. And I think that that's Etsy just kind of, they're moving the carrot around, trying to figure out, who do I show this to? Let's show it to these people. Let's put it on some home pages. Let's match it in, these searches.
And I get that of very specific products that haven't sold in a year and a half, and I'm like, maybe I should kill that listing. Then I'll make a sale, and then 20 minutes later, that item sells again. It's like, nobody wanted this thing for so long. I was ready to kill it, and apparently it's wanted again.
Well,
but then it doesn't sell for months.
Brian, how much more data did Etsy say in the Q1 investors report? Did they say they increased data collection on the buyer side by, what was the percentage? I can't remember offhand.
Don't remember the percent, but it was a lot. It was a lot more than you would expect.
So they're actively increasing the amount that they're learning from the shoppers, and that is their goal. Josh wants to be the innovator when it comes to machine learning. Like, he has made it very clear. He did an entire podcast just on how he wants to be the leader of the pack above Amazon, above eBay, above all these e-commerce shopping platforms. Josh doesn't want to follow in their path. He wants to be first in line when it comes to their algorithm. So I think that what we experience is a lot of their testing and experimenting, which, you know, maybe good, maybe bad, could create a better Etsy for tomorrow.
Which,
You know
from
what?
my own experience, I could tell you that Etsy's algorithm, again, this is just my own experience, is getting significantly better than even Amazon's. I will search for something on Amazon. The sponsored listings right at the top will be completely irrelevant when I'm looking for something specific, and then I'm on page 6 before I'm like, I do I have to refine? I don't know what's happening, but I'll do the exact same search on Etsy, and the first listing will be the one I'm looking for. And it's like, okay,
Yep.
I guess I'm spending even more on Etsy. Thanks.
Brian, that mirrors my Amazon and Etsy experience exactly.
Yeah.
I am literally having to go through pages to find stuff on Amazon, especially if you're looking for technical products where you put in the characteristics. My goodness, it's frustrating. Stella, you said something there, and it reminded me of the frequency capping, which is more commonly used in advertising worlds. The advertising world, but I have a sneaking feeling it also applies to Etsy. There's only so many times you can show the same listing to people. You've got to try something else to see whether that shop's listing will perform better than your shop's listing,
Exactly.
or vice versa. So there has to be that constant experimentation going on. Otherwise, the experience gets a bit stale. So all these things will be messing with your stats, unfortunately.
Exactly. And in Etsy's documentation, they do mention that they do use frequency capping so that a single shop doesn't dominate the first few pages of search results. So where it used to be, if you searched for custom jewelry or something, the first 3 pages would just be Caitlin Minimalist, and that's all there would be. So now they've instituted frequency capping so that other shops actually have an opportunity to get there instead of just through the ads.
Sprouted Dreams had a question, and I really wish we had an answer for you. But on the new policies, who's the judge that determines leather was cut by a laser or by hand? Who determines if something is hand sewn or sewn on a sewing machine? So that's not what the policy is. The policy isn't saying that you can't use a sewing machine or that something was cut by laser or by hand. The policy states that you cannot use a file that multiple people have the ability to use, because that will result in identical products being listed on the marketplace. I'm going to assume that right now the Who is going to be AI. It's going to be Etsy's image recognition system. So if we use a machine at all, is it not handmade then? That is not at all what the policy says. The policy just doesn't want you to basically we're looking at 3D printers and Brian, what are the
CNC, and then Cricut machines.
Cricut machines.
They specifically called out Cricut machines for some reason, even though Silhouette and Sizer and all of them have their own, but they specifically said Cricut, so that's a weird one.
Yeah, but they're not saying that you can't use a sewing machine. Yeah. They're talking about and something that, you know, in the Linus video that they had mentioned that I actually didn't consider, so good on them for mentioning it, but they were talking about print farms where people will go and acquire tons of digital files for, we'll say, 3D printed flower pots. And they're able to, in an essence, mass produce tons and tons and tons of identical 3D printed flower pots via a design that was not their own. And then imagine amplifying that across, you know, thousands of sellers who are doing the same thing. And then let's say that Brian designs his own unique 3D printed flower pots, but he can't get ahead of all of the identical 3D printed flower pots that are basically being mass produced by people who are buying files that can be reused. Now, am I saying it's good, bad, or any way or the other? No, it's not my industry, and I'm not familiar with it. But that is why I would assume Etsy put those rules into place. It's not about using a sewing machine or, you know, using any actual, you know, machine that assists in a handmade product. It's about taking a file and recreating a product that many other people have access to this file.
Exactly. Someone will download something for free from Thingiverse or wherever. Someone will, or 1,000 people will purchase the exact same SVG, DXF, STL file, whatever the file is. They will purchase the exact same thing and list the exact same thing. Sometimes using the exact same image from the original creator. And now, when somebody searches for that, they're getting 1,000 of the exact same listing, just different sellers. From a seller perspective, sure, you want to sell whatever you can. From a buyer perspective, that's a horrible experience if I just see page after page after page of the exact same thing when I would have clicked on the first one if that's what I wanted.
Right.
I want to see variation of some sort. Otherwise, that's not a good shopping experience. And
And
that's why Etsy's doing that.
I'm going to assume, Brian, that I'm thinking about like shops that sell, we'll say like tabletop gaming miniatures. If you were to print those, but then maybe do like a really good paint job where the paint job
Exactly.
is completely
It-
different, then that
If you
would,
modify it, you're
right.
actually in compliance with Etsy's rules. So if you do
Yeah.
miniatures or you do planters or you do anything, as long as you are changing it, it's just like if you the way it's always been with POD is you can't just take a clip art file, slap it on a shirt, and call it your own. You would have to do something to that clip art. You could take two clip arts, put them together, and now you have an original piece of work. That's all they're looking for is an original piece of work instead of just the exact same thing that everyone else has.
Right.
Yeah. So if you take miniatures, you paint them. Now that painting is the art that makes it different.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, if any of you are curious about it, go right now to Etsy and search Dragon Book Nook. These dragon, that looks like a dragon coming out of your bookshelf. It's like a little book nook that you put between your books on the shelf. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of this exact dragon book nook, just, not painted,
Yep.
just different colors of the filament, but they're not painted at all. But then there are a couple that are painted. And I assume, like Brian said, the ones that are painted are the ones that are going to stick around, and Etsy's going to get rid of the thousands and thousands of, ones that are just printed, therefore elevating the ones that have put a lot of time and effort into painting their work, which, Etsy has been saying, or Josh has been saying, that they want to elevate the best of Etsy. And, it really sucks I would assume that for those who were in the 3D print game, way, way, way back when, who, have built a huge business model off of these files that, are mass produced, it really sucks for those creators. But I think for those who are, doing unique things, like, Brian's got some crazy stuff going on in the background right now, it's going to help to elevate those sellers who are selling things that are different. And, that way you're not just getting a million dragon book nooks that are identical in search.
Exactly. Anna said, I think some of the nooks are bought commercially, so wouldn't even painting them be against policies now?
I don't know about that. I don't know how different that would be than going to the craft store and buying a wooden jewelry box, but doing like a really cool painting on it. Who's to say, as long as you are taking that product and completely changing it and enhancing it, I think that would still qualify under Etsy's policies, especially if, you're making that product unique.
I believe it was a branded thing because they also made that change 2 years ago, I believe it was, with shoes. People were just taking Converse shoes and painting all over them, but still using the Converse name. The Converse name was still visible, and it was still a Converse shoe just painted on. And Etsy said, nope, that's not allowed. So I think this is just an iteration saying it's beyond just shoes. It's now anything that's branded. You can't just take a Gucci purse and write all over it and now consider it your own art.
Right. Okay. We're down to the last 5 minutes. Anthony,
Oh,
did
wow.
you have any other features in your list to cover?
Okay. I do have one.
Okay.
How many of you know about our shortcut button? No.
The shortcut
Brian,
button or the extension?
the shortcut.
The shortcut button.
This is
Oh.
one we built years ago. Basically, it's a little button. You can drag it into your bookmarks. And then when you're on an Etsy page, maybe you're searching for something, you can click that button and it'll take you straight to the keyword tool for stats on that keyword. So we're making a couple of little improvements to that. And that is we're extending support to Amazon, eBay, Facebook Marketplace, Google Search, and I think Pinterest as well. So
Out of curiosity, why are we doing that and not absorbing that into the extension features?
Because extension only works with Chrome.
Oh, okay.
That's part of the reason, yeah. We also know that a lot of folks out there are really worried about browser extensions and
Okay.
things like that, because some of them out there are glorified spyware that are just downright creepy.
Sure.
The shortcut button, we can do a lot
Honey
of
ruined it for us, didn't it?
The thing is our shortcut buttons still very popular. Folks love the convenience of it. It's not a drag on your browser. It's one click to reach information directly in eRank without having the risk of installing a browser extension. Not that our browser extension is risky. We're not spying on people, but some people are just very anti-browser extension.
Understandable.
And it's extremely convenient because if you're in a shop, like we use it for critiques all the time, or when we're doing research, that kind of thing. When you're in a shop, actually looking at the shop page, it'll take you to the shop page analytics on eRank. When you're in a listing, it'll show you the listing analytics for it. So you can use it in many different places, and it's one of those things that keeps more features keep getting added to it, which is nice.
Yeah, there's
So
a
if
lot
we're going to
more
start
depth.
using that for Amazon and Pinterest and everything, that's amazing.
We probably should have a Q&A on those two tools one day, the browser extension and the shortcut button, because I think that like a lot of features on eRank, people don't know about these things, and then they see it and they go, oh wow, where has this been all my life? Well, shortcut button has been there for about 5 or 6 years. Yeah.
Oh, I can't get mine to load on the bar. I've tried several times in Explorer. The shortcut button or the extension?
That sounds like the shortcut button.
That might be a support. Reach out to a support issue and see if we can.
The shortcut button, you should just be able to drag it up to your bookmark bar or into your bookmarks. If you already have it there, remove it and bring it back in. Just because sometimes it's been there so long that the code might have changed or something like that, and it just doesn't work properly. Just take it out of your bookmarks and drag it back in, and sometimes that'll work.
Oh, they said it won't drag. That's the one with the smiley face, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Time in Explorer. I think we'd have to have a look at the browser that you're using. Yeah. Oh, Jay Dunn, you got the message. Yeah, contact support. We can take a look at that. It should work for most browsers. I think we used to have a problem with Safari, but I think that was resolved. I know it doesn't work on tablets. That's just the nature of Android and iOS. Yeah. I did see someone
Swagata
else.
says, I use the shortcut, haven't tried the extension. Does the extension have anything additional, or should we use one or the other?
I think the browser extension has a few extra little things. Really, the beauty of it is that it just opens up a little panel on the side of the screen, and you have the information there and Etsy side by side. So that's a very convenient way to do it. We decided not to do what some other browser extensions do, and they start to interfere with the Etsy experience or the Amazon experience. I know those companies frown upon that sort of behavior, and there is also the risk of fraud, and I just didn't want to be associated with any of those sort of tactics there. I'd certainly encourage you to test out both of them. They're similar, but it just depends on your workflow to a degree.
Okay.
And there we have it.
All right.
That hour flew by like crazy.
Well, guys, thanks so much for hanging out. Pam, we didn't even mention that Pam wasn't here. We just didn't acknowledge Pam's existence at all. Clearly, Pam's not here, but I think that she'll be back next week, right?
She's back next week. Yeah.
Mhm.
So it might just be me and Pam next week.
Maybe.
Yeah, I believe so.
I did get a little message that there are some tools that may be ready for next Thursday. So if they are, I might sneak in again and show them off.
Give us something to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thanks for
All right.
tuning in, everyone.
Thanks for hanging
Thanks
out.
for
guys.
joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe. Join us in the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/EtsyRank. You could also find us on Threads. I believe tomorrow, what's today? Today's Thursday. So tomorrow we are opening up our critiques once again on Threads. So find us on Threads under eRank SEO. And join Starla and Pam next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
It wasn't easy, no, but with eRank, we're trending now. I dreamed of topping all the charts. I wanted sales to blow up. Remember long nights crafting, no one clicking on my stuff. But I signed up for eRank.